What round they rise to find that?
You're playing touch butt with that dork in the park, the ponytail. And I'm the one who ain't got no training partner? I don't think so. You seem to have it all figured out when you're playing midget.
Damn it! 60 G's, baby!
Dust Up Shakedown begins right now.
What's going on, Fight Week Show fans, Fight Week Show people? Then we are back with another episode of Dust Up Shakedown. Yes, and right here doing it with us is my brother Jordan. My D is right here, my brother Jordan, and we got our guest from Portugal, not South Africa today, but from Portugal. Still carry some of that energy from that win over there in South Africa. How you doing, brothers? Let's start with you, Magdane. How you doing, my guy?
I'm good, mate. Still flying after my weekend, to be honest with you. I mean, it was good getting out there and covering Octagon MMA. Getting down to the press conference was wicked. Getting the backstage of the event was unbelievable, and obviously just the whole experience was wild, man. So yeah, still buzzing, still flying on those coattails there.
100%. I mean, the scenes, some of the stuff that you covered, you know, meeting the fighters face to face, and bro, you made that press conference real fucking funny, man. You got that humor out of those fighters. They just battered themselves, and getting that humor out of them was incredible, man. You know what I mean? Just seeing all those guys, I do want to ask you, because it's something that I'm looking to do in the future as well.
Mm-hmm.
But you doing it for the first time. What was that? What was that interaction? The whole thing like?
Oh man, it was so smooth. It was so laid back and easy going. You know what I mean? Like, obviously, I was. You know what I mean? I was nervous as you're gonna be sitting there about to ask questions live on camera. That's getting pushed out to the DAZN and like YouTube and everything else. And it's just like I'm actually about to sit here and professionally ask fighters questions. It's not just I'm hosting somebody on my podcast, so if I mess up, and that's on my pod. You know what I mean? Like I'm live on a professional fight promotion here. Like you've got to have your wits about you. You know what I mean? But it was cool, man. It was cool, and the fight, they give you the answers themselves. You know what I mean? You don't really need to bring anything out in them. Like they've got their own characters, their own personalities. I even messaged that Jack Cartwright after it and said, "Bro, you're one funny dude." Like honestly, because he was just coming out with some shit. Even when I asked Jonas if he was surprised with his power. No, not even that. I asked him if he had any compliments, because Jack had been quite respectful of him, and he turned around and just went, "He's a fucking hard cunt." I was in bits sitting in the press conference. I couldn't believe it, man. But it writes itself, dude. But yeah, whoever got the mic after me would have had one sweaty hand after I handed that mic over to him. I'll tell you that.
That's what's up, man. Congratulations on that gig, man.
Cheers,
you know
bro.
what I mean? And here's to many more to come as well. And let me ask you, Yao, because you've done all this type of stuff before. I see you do it with the UFC fighters, and being around them, having those conversations with those guys. You know what's that really? You know, what's that really like? That energy, just being around them.
To be honest, I saw the work that you did at Octagon, and I was very impressed and definitely jealous of the press conferences, because unfortunately locally EFC stopped having press conferences, so we couldn't really ask the fighters questions directly after the fights. But the energy when you're involved in the event from the media side, especially as a podcaster, the energy from the fighters, from the crowd, from the promotion itself is just so phenomenal. They embrace, I'm sure you felt the same thing, an embrace of what we're trying to do in terms of promoting these fighters, promoting the promotion itself, and making sure that, for example, me down in South Africa, I know about Octagon, and I even seen the fighters. Now I'm following a fighter, Dennis Frimpong, mostly because his surname is Ghanaian and I'm from Ghana originally. So, you know, it's amazing that you've managed to then bring that out to say, look, locally, this is what promotion I have around me, so I'm going to make sure that the fighters around me are promoted, and that's exactly what we're doing at EFC. So it's absolutely amazing, phenomenal, and thank you so much for bringing that to us as well. And I'm sure your fighters are also going to start getting more into your content and giving more to your show as well. But yeah, phenomenal, amazing.
Thank you very much, man. Like I say, it was an incredible experience, and you nailed it there. Like they make you feel very welcome. They make you feel very much part of the show and what's going on and what they're trying to portray and the production value of it all, everything. You know what I mean? Like the whole point, the communication was excellent. You know what I mean? They tell you exactly where you can go, what you can do, all of it. It was brilliant.
Yeah, man. It's just, I mean, when you see all those types of taking part in those sort of events, it's just nice. And yeah, it's something I definitely want to get on. Jordan, I mean, hearing these guys talk about these things that I'm still looking to break my neck on it, and it's mad. Well, how did you find the whole Octagon show that went on the weekend with some of the fighters? We have, we know a couple of them on the show. Some of them you've spoken to. How did you find it?
Yeah, real well put together show. I think Octagon doing a really good job of sort of coming out of nowhere and establishing itself as a top promotion. You know, obviously the backing of the zone doesn't, but it always helps. But yeah, seeing them after doing the whole Channel 4 show and stuff like that, it's nice that they're still willing to give guys like obviously McDane a shot at coming in and breaking the press conference virginities and stuff like that. I think it's going to go a long way to help keeping and establishing a sort of fan base there, because a lot of people watching new promotions, it's because they're hearing about it on their favorite podcast. Outside of the UFC, people maybe aren't giving too many things a chance without having it promoted to them. So yeah, sort of hope that there's more Octagon events that McDane can get down and keep getting more experience.
Yeah, that's
Yeah, I mean, I'm loving it, and obviously you just got your credentials as well, to interview some of the fighters on Bellator and the PFL card that's coming up, the PFL versus Bellator, which is a big card, and getting your credentials to interview these guys as well. It's going to be on the Fight Week show, people. So keep your eyes out for that when that goes down. How much are you looking forward to that?
Yeah, it's a big one. I've obviously done a few of the PFL press conferences before for a few guys. But this one, there's fighters on it like Yoel Romero, who I think everybody sort of holds in quite a high esteem. You know what I mean? He's a Cuban medalist in the Olympics and stuff like that. So, yeah, I was half expecting to speak to Kayla Harrison again, but as we'll probably get into at some point in tonight's show.
Yeah.
Don't think she's looking a likely candidate for this year's winner. But yeah, another thing I was going to mention that I said to McDane earlier about us maybe interviewing a few guys from the IMMAF tournaments coming up, which is like guys like Makayev, Nicholas Dalby. Like there's a whole list of sort of UFC fighters that came through that route, and fortunately a guy that I used to work for now runs their PR side, and he's offered us basically unlimited access to any fighters we want to talk to from the games. So you never know, we might be able to get into on the ground floor for the next Makayev.
Bro, it'll be nice. It'll be nice when I mean, you look at some of the stuff that you just said you're gonna be doing. I just think it's incredible, and it's gonna be nice once you get that roll going. Once you get that roll going, yeah, man. Good things are coming for everyone in 2024, bro. You know what I mean? I just wanted to put that out there, let people know. We're not just on here on video, just talking about stuff. We're also working to improve ourselves, improve our portfolios, improve what we bring to the people, and that's what we're here for, and that's why we love what we do. But let's get onto some topics that's been going on in the MMA world, and before I come to Jordan and McDane's favorite topic, the women's division, let me bring it to Yao. Yao, Ryan Clark is covered saying that the women's bantamweight division really should be shut down. There's no real competition there since Amanda Nunes is gone. I mean, just looking at the recent title fight that just happened between Bueno Silva and Raquel Pennington. When you look at the level for title fights, and you want to do a ranking, what was your excitement level from between 1 and 10 for that title fight between Bueno Silva and Raquel Pennington?
I'll be honest, I feel terrible for saying this, but until until the day before, or I think no, sorry, until after the fight, I didn't even know it was a title fight. I wish I was joking. I really do. I saw it as a fight. I'm like, oh, great, ladies are fighting.
Yeah,
But
you're
I
right.
didn't even realize it was a title fight. So, unfortunately, for some reason, the women's bantamweight division has lost its shine because Amanda Nunes was so dominant for so long. And when she retired, it literally created a vacuum. However, yes, there might be no excitement around those fights. And if you look at the quality of the fight itself, it's tricky to say about whether and how there should be more. But at the end of the day, all divisions always suffer at some point. It's a miracle that the middleweight division right now in the UFC isn't suffering, because Dricus and Sean managed to get us all very excited about that fight. So I think maybe they do need to do a lot more within the different women's divisions. But also, if you look at bantamweight is a very heavy class for women. So realistically speaking, how many women can you get into that weight class to then make it competitive? And that's really the question, is how much competition is there really at bantamweight? So I can understand why there's some despondence and why people are saying the bantamweight division shouldn't really be in place for the women's. But at the end of the day, it's almost like a women's super fight. You know, it's like a super heavyweight fight in the men's division. You don't have that many, but when you see a super heavyweight fight, you're there. You're like, oh yeah, let's watch these people beat each other to death. So for me, it's more along those lines of, yes, it might not really be shooting at on all cylinders now, but if we add a little bit of dynamism to it, to say, okay, look, we know that we don't have that much depth in this roster. Sure. So how do we make sure that all the fights in this division are exciting? That might be a way to carry it on, or maybe even have it as a super division when you want to become a champ. You know, listen, let me put on some weight and go and beat some women at a higher weight class. But I understand where he's coming from with regards to the quality of the fight that we received and the relevance of the bantamweight division based on the depth of the roster and how many women you can really get into that weight class.
Jordan, I mean, we sat down and watched the fight, and like you said during the during the watch along, I mean, just watching the quality of the fight in itself, and it being a title fight.
Yeah.
What's your take? Not so much in agreements with Yao, but I want to get your overall take on the validity of bantamweight still being around.
Yeah, it's a funny one, isn't it? I think obviously Yao just nailed it pretty much all there. Like once we lost Nunes, it was kind of like, what's the point? It had a vacuum. They seem to just be throwing heads in there for absolutely no reason at all, just to try and create fights that they think people might want to watch. You know what I mean? Like you look at it, you've got like the Holly Holm in there, you've got Santos, you've got Misha Tate, you know what I mean, Aldana. Like there's just some random champions in there, some random women in there that I just seem, like I say, just to set up the fights when you've got the strawweight and you've got the flyweight that are thriving with talent in the women's divisions. You know what I mean? There's some absolute killers in those divisions, and it's just like, where are we going with this? What's it going to look like? And how's it going to go in the future? Like, is it going to lose interest where people just don't want to watch the fights? People are going to keep tuning out to them. Are they going to put out a fight like the one that we just seen for a chat? Was that a championship fight? First round, they came out all right. I mean, they seem to have a bit of a rivalry in the press conferences. They were building that fight. It did seem like it was going to play out to be something that you would want to see. But I don't know, man. It's a funny one. It is a funny one.
Jordan, this is something that's close to your heart because yeah, you wanted Raquel Pennington to win that title, didn't you? But look, jokes aside, when we're talking about the women's bantamweight division, I mean, I like that division when Nunes was there, running riots, taking on all these contenders. You know, your Jermaine Durand, the Miz. You know, your Ollie Holmes. You know, Ronda's she Cyborg went up and cleaned out Cyborg. Just literally carried that division on her back. Now she's gone. That vacuum is there. Nobody's really checking for it. I mean, Yao was right. The build-up was non-existent for that title fight. He didn't even know. I didn't really clock it to what doing the prediction show. To be fair, you know what I mean. Like the build-up was almost non-existent. What do you think?
So women's 135 has always been sort of interesting because it was the original division for women.
Mm-hmm.
Like the whole reason for women's MMA was that division and Ronda Rousey in particular. But if you remember, after
Jordan's just
she lost
frozen
to Holly Holm.
Yeah, he's back. Yeah, sorry, we lost you there for a second.
Yeah, I was just saying, it's always been a sort of dominated division. It's Ronda Rousey and Amanda Nunes have got the two sort of only notable reigns in division's history. But whenever those guys slip up, the sort of big stars, the division falls into a bit of a sort of void. But if Juliana Pena was sort of now the reason the division's boring because there's no one else in the... Misha Tate is ranked number 7. She's won one fight since 2001 against Julia Avilia. Like, there's no real sort of... There's no one there to make the division interesting. It could get interesting again. We just need... I think that's always going to be a division with one dominant fighter that's so much better than the rest. And we're just waiting on the next one.
Do you want to know? Look, this is my take on it. Yeah, I truly feel, and I think Shevchenko could have a nice fresh coat of paint and go to 135 and just run shit over there. You know, I really think so, and I know she's been on a back of couple of mad losses, almost like Usman like type losses. Because the second fight was close, but the first one was a finish from Alexa Grasso. But I think if she goes up, just like Usman went up and faced somebody, I think she could go up there and actually take care of some of those bantamweights over there in the bantamweight division. What do you think, Yao?
I think you're quite right. That is possible for her to go up and then do that, especially because she's been so dominant at, well, the lower weight classes. Like she's just been phenomenal. She beats everyone. And like you said, the two Grasso losses, one was a questionable decision for a draw, but I mean, you know how we feel about draws. And the first one was a clean finish from Grasso. So if she went up, she would probably dominate, but then the question would then be asked, how does that help her legacy? Because who is she dominating? Then becomes the question. So would she do that? Because does that really solidify her legacy as one of the greatest between her and Amanda Nunes? Maybe there's a few names in the past that you might mention, Ronda Rousey, Chris Cyborg, sure. But between her and Amanda Nunes, they are practically the female GOATs. Yes, at different weight classes, etc. But even if she goes to bantamweight and dominates, I don't think that adds to her legacy. I think she would probably dominate, but at this point in her career, she was the title holder for so long. She was a dominant champion in her weight class. For her to go up and then fight people that we are sitting here saying we don't really know what they were doing in a title fight, people who can't hold a pay-per-view, like that fight was never going to hold a pay-per-view on its own. Yeah. So for that reason, I don't think there's much value in her, for her as an individual, going up right now. Maybe if the UFC managed to make that division more attractive for someone like Valentina Shevchenko, then she would possibly go up. But without that, it's a bit tricky to say she must go up and fight Raquel Pennington or any of the bantamweights that are already there now. Plus, she'd have to then take the time, gain the weight, all of that. So it's a bit tricky to say that she would be the one. We might need some new blood to come in, someone we don't really know, string together 7 fights in a row, grab the title, and then just go on a tear. That might be the one thing that might save the bantamweight division. But short of that, I don't think throwing a name from one of the lower divisions into that division is really gonna put the shine on it that it would if we were getting a name like Kayla Harrison or someone coming in from another promotion. But yeah, so that's really my view. Is I don't think it should go away. I just think they need to handle it in a very specific sort of way. Maybe like a super heavyweights division with the men. We don't have those often. We call them catchweights or whatever. But let's not completely discard it, because there are heavy women out there that can probably fight. But let's just change how we look at the bantamweight division in the women's bantamweight division.
Yeah, you're right in terms of maybe looking at a catch weight sort of situation, but it's not something Dana has been really open to. He's very, very vocal about no to catch weights. The only times he does it is if his hands are really tied, and he can't really do nothing about it. It's probably the only time but if it was up to him, there wouldn't be he'll stick to the weight classes and not even entertain catch weights. Talking about Kayla Harrison and catch weight situation, Jordan, let me come to you on this. You're part of the folks that's going to be looking at what she does on her debut. Now there's concerns about her making weight. Again, we're talking about catch weight in this situation here. She's about to make her debut against Holly Holmes at UFC 300. She barely makes 145. Does she fight at 150, 155?
155 she's been fighting at.
155. That's wild. How does she make 135? Talk about getting a good nutritionist, but seriously, she's big bone, bro. Talk to me.
Yeah, I don't know I'm confused by this plan. She has made 145 before, but not easily. Seemed quite depleted and like she was struggling with the weight cut then. She is a big woman. But if you see her next to someone like Henry Cejudo,
you didn't just take it to Triple C, man. That's my guy. Triple C the king of cringe, man.
The problem is that Kayla's one of Ali's sort of clients, so they all hang around together. So even next to Khabib, she doesn't look small, but next to Henry, you're like, oh, where do I take him here? That's a straight up wrestling match. But yeah, I think I don't know. I think Kayla was just out of options to get to the UFC. I think she'd been trying that long to get her sort of 145 contract. The UFC weren't willing to pay it for a division that was basically created because they'd ran out of stuff to do with Cyborg. It'll be interesting to see what Cyborg's approach was, because I think she was going to hopefully fight Kayla in the whole PFL Bellator crossover. So it'll be interesting to see if Cyborg now tries to make her way back to the UFC, because it's wide open at the minute. As far as making weight goes, I don't see it as really a feasible thing, but she must be confident.
Talking about Cyborg, perfect segue. Cyborg, I think she's trying to get a booking with PFL. She's trying to get on that card, and for some reason they're looking at her sideways, man. She's trying to get Amanda Nunes. Jordan, this is for you. She's trying to get Amanda Nunes out of retirement as well. So it's almost like she's a Bellator fighter looking to get something with PFL because they just bought Bellator, and on top of that, trying to get Amanda Nunes out of the division. Do you think, given the history that she's got with Dana, is there a chance Dana gives her a chance to come back to the UFC when we look at the way they parted ways?
I think she's playing the game. Yeah, so obviously they've just bought them out. She knows the script. She knows how the sports goes. She knows there's going to be some cuts. She knows like this title, the champs versus the champs. You know what I mean? The Bellator fighters versus the PFL fighters. She's like, right, there's going to be some cuts here. And is there going to be the competition that I want to go against? Amanda Nunes was at the Pennington fight and was at the side and hinted towards coming back to the UFC or coming back to fighting in general, which would most probably be in the UFC. You can't see her really going anywhere else. You know what I mean? So I think she's just trying to put her hat in the mix. You know what I mean? She's just going, look, I'm over here just now, but if she comes back, I'd be interested in getting that scrap. And it would also be a way for her to get the foot in the door to be like, right, get me back into the UFC. And go.
Oh, so the only thing I want to say is $1 million. If I was Amanda Nunes and someone said, come and fight for $1 million potentially, even if it's Cyborg, I'm there. But keep going.
No, sweet. But how much does Amanda Nunes? Jesus Christ, Amanda Nunes made? Like, spit that one out, Jod. Like, so does $1 million entice her enough to go to a different promotion for one fight, where she could probably get multiple fights, end up with a title somewhere, and get the pay-per-view points and probably make more than $1 million anyway? You know what I mean? Like with the UFC, I get your point thoroughly, but I also think, is it going to be enough to entice her? Is it, or will she stick to? Or will she stick with the bed that she already made? You know what I mean? And jump right back into that thing because it's already cozy and warm. You know what I mean? Like, and I think it also plays into the like as we were talking a minute ago against Kayla Harrison. Like, she's not going to be making 135 very easily. So as we also pointed out a second ago, like, maybe why don't they chuck her into that bantamweight division and see where that goes? You know what I mean? That could be interesting because it's not going to be hard as a cut. It should potentially make the 145 in there.
Yeah.
So
not for Cyborg anyways.
Yeah, I know, but at the same time, like you said a second ago, for Shevchenko, who's that division gonna improve her legacy on? Probably not many people in there would add to her legacy. But if you're gonna throw somebody like Kayla Harrison in the mix, let's bang that one in there and see what happens. I think what they need, because I was gonna say it a second ago, but we kind of moved on from it as well. But I think as you mentioned, it needs. I don't think chucking somebody who's on already a polarizing figure or somebody like champion status is going to be any good for the bantamweight division. And it needs that fresh face. It needs that fresh blood to inject it, to get these people enticed to being a bit more competitive, to coming in and going, right, let's take this title, let's run with it. So I think all of this kind of, you know what I mean, plays into each other. Everything that we've just discussed there is all a plausible outcome of all of it.
I swear down, Leroy's the devil, man. I'm telling you, man. Leroy, he says I can't help but think where bad did I say wait. She looks like Wanderlei Silva in a dress every time someone mentions her. Leroy, you're the devil, bro. I swear to God, man. I'm just a messenger. Don't shoot me. Leroy is the devil. Yeah. Okay. This is one topic. A lot of people, you know, we rarely hear them talk about it. And Yao, I really want to get your take on this as well for the people that are watching. Fighter pay. I mean, it's when we look at some of the fighters that are out there, right? You know, even up onto regional fighters, but at least if you're making it to a promotion like PFL or even Bellator, UFC, really you shouldn't have any other job. That should be your sole job. And I think these promotions, they're not really putting it down for you know, a lot of the fighters. I know a fighter over there from Ireland. Big up Andreas Binder. He's a manager at Audi's, and these guys are top level fighter. You know, there's some of them that Reese Brudenell. It's a bricklayer contractor over here.
Apparently, Aldi pays some good money, bro.
I mean, but this is what I'm saying. But when you become a professional fighter, especially in some of these top promotions, really and truly, that should be your sole job. What you think? What's your take on fighter pay? And should these fighters really should be, you know, be getting more pound for their buck, especially for what they put on the line to entertain you know, the MMA fans all across the world. Even in your promotion at the EFC, I think some of those guys should be seeing a lot more money. What do you think?
Honestly, that's a loaded question because yes, but
Yeah, let's hear it.
yes, they should be seeing more pay. But at the end of the day, we also need to bear in mind that with the myriad of professions and industries across the globe, across everything, if everyone gets more pay, then, you know, like, how will economy survive? So yes, they probably should be looking at more pay, but not necessarily more pay, but more security. So specifically around things like healthcare. Every fighter should have a healthcare plan. Every fighter should be able to go to the chiropractor after a fight and get their body fixed up. Every fighter should have that opportunity to be able to continue fighting and continue doing what they're doing. Not necessarily the pay, because if you can fight, you get paid. If you can't fight, you don't get paid. And then, you know, it's sort of a disparity there to say, well, if you're going to pay me a lot for one fight and then I can never fight again, then what was really the point? So for me, it's not really about the pay, but it's more about securing the fighters within that profession with all those other things that come with fighting that need that support the fighters, not necessarily pay. Because if a fighter gets paid, what, 30 to 40% is going to the gym and all those expenses they incurred in order for them to train to get to that point of winning. Then you've got taxes. Then you've got. Next thing you know, they're sitting with 30% of their purse, 25%, 40, a limited amount of their purse. So in that regard, how much more can you really increase the pay to cover that shortfall of almost 70% of whatever they get paid going elsewhere? So for me, it's not really about fighter pay. It's more about fighter support, making sure that we're putting in place the right structures, especially around healthcare, to make sure that the fighters are supported and they are able to do what they do as their profession, which is then fighting. So right now, there is no fighter support. A fighter is an independent contractor. If he gets injured, that's his problem. Bye. So that's why they need to have alternative employment and alternative options with regards to what they do in their lives other than fighting. So for me, I believe in fighter pay, but for me, that's not really the critical issue in making sure that these fighters can do what they do and make it their profession. It's about fighter support. That's really, really important.
Jordan, let me come to you. I mean, this whole talk about fighter pay, fighter support, like Yao just mentioned just now, I heard on Shannon Sharp, big up Shannon Sharp. He's doing mad things with people like Cat Williams. If you haven't seen that Cat Williams interview, I don't know where the fuck you've been. Go watch it. That guy is absolutely bonkers. I tell you, I love Cat Williams. I've been a big fan since Friday After Next night. Big fan. I mean, crazy movie. But I saw Francis Ngannou on Shannon Sharp. And he was talking, around this topic as well, where these fighters, they lie to the doctor before they go and fight with some of the shit that's going wrong with them. And then when they finish the fight, then they now add everything as part of the injury they sustained during the fight to get themselves fixed. And it shouldn't be like that. Some of these guys are having to train with bad knee, bad elbow, bad shoulder, bad this, bad that. But they can't tell the doctors because they're not on health insurance, like Yao mentioned earlier on. Like, this whole thing, and I know from what he just said, it doesn't necessarily have to be around the pay. But what's your take on say what we should really be looking at here to make it at least sustainable and better for the fighters?
There's so much to unpack. I mean, like even as recent as Dennis Frimpong at the weekend told me that he's had a hand injury since the Bow fight. You know what I mean? Like, and how long ago was that fight? Like, it's absolutely insane. And he was like, I was hesitant to put the power into some of his shots at the weekend there against Siraki.
It cost him finishing the fight. Sorry to cut in.
No. You're right. You're bang on, man. Like, because he in the back of your head, you've got that little thing going, yeah, just be careful. You know what I mean? Because that's your career at the end of the day. That's what's making you money at the end of the day. And you're obviously not going to say that your hand's too sore to fight, because then you're not making money and you're not going to be able to do something that you love. So that's just like one piece of the entire package of fighter pay, isn't it? But again, like, so it's, you need to think of it like from the individual fighter, from the business background, like all of it. Yeah, I mean, it's not just as simple as fighters deserve more pay. Yes, they deserve more pay. I'm not going to sit here and say that they don't. You know what I mean? Like, they put their wife on the line. I mean, I forget the young man's last name, and I feel terrible because I know he's in a really bad position right now. That Ryan, the Irish fighter, Liam McCourt, and a few others talk about him. He ended up in a terrible accident in a fight. You know what I mean? And he's now, I think, paralyzed from the neck down. And these are consequences. Yeah, I forget his last name. And honestly, I was
it's
trying to rack through it a minute ago. So I was looking at my
Leroy,
phone.
if you remember it, please put it in the chat so we can put it on.
Man, I was trying to find it on my phone there, and I couldn't find it. But like, there is those consequences in this sport. It can be like, it can be a life ending. At the end of the day, you could take a head kick the wrong way and boom, good night. You know what I mean? Yeah. Lights are out. And that's it. Like, so these people deserve more money for putting their life on the line. And then when you look at it from the business point of view, what are they bringing to the table that's adding to the package? So that's where you then get your superstars, where you get your Conor McGregors, where you get your draws. You know what I mean? You get your polls. You get the people that are bringing in the pay-per-view points. You get the people that are putting bums on seats, and then you'll get somebody that not so much many people know about. They've not got much of a personality. They're not really out there. They're not like bigging it up massively, and the fights might not be that exciting, but they're getting the job done at the end of the day. Yeah, I mean, there's so much, there's too much to go into. It's unbelievable. Like he nails it there with Yao nails it with health packages for sure. You then look at other. So the other thing is individual sports and team sports. People like to go with, oh well, look at football, like look at NFL, like look at basketball. Yeah, it's like teams that are building this money and generating this income and getting paid what they're getting. You look at it more of an individual sport. I think I read something about UFC payment is closer to is actually below, but it's closer to a tennis player in percentage wise of what they receive in the salary compared to the earnings or the gross income of the promotion that they fight for or whatever it is. So then you look at your professional golfers, you look at whatever else individual sport that you want to look at. And then you look at the sponsorship opportunities that they've got that specifically UFC and some other places have taken away from the fighters. You know what I mean? They can't source these other parts of income from getting these contracts with sponsorships or any other endorsements that they might be able to get. So some seem to on the side, but I think again that's the upper echelon of these fighters that are allowed to go, yeah, you can go and have that little extra bit in your pocket on the side, and some of them aren't. You know what I mean? Like getting your sponsorship on your shorts, obviously they're taking that away years ago now at this point. You know what I mean? Like when Reebok came in and just took over the branding completely and was like, no, it's us or nothing. You know what I mean? And now you've got The Rock coming in. Like there's just so many moving parts here. It's unbelievable. But yeah, benefits, health benefits. Let's say, what you're gonna give them some holidays? Are you gonna give them sick pay? You know what I mean? Like there's so many different things that go into a normal pay packet of an average man's job to what you don't really see within this, because it's an individual man's sport or woman's sport. Yeah, I mean it's a big bag you've opened there, mate. Like,
no, seriously. I mean, you definitely pointed out some very, very solid and valid points in some of the points that you made there. Jordan, when we're looking at this sport as a whole, right, in general, a lot of these fighters as well, you know, it's not just about fighter pay, because we've seen Dana also say, go and build yourself, go and build your own brand. And the more eyes you bring to the table, the more goes into your pocket. You know, we've seen him say that plenty of times. And when you look at what we do, all of us individually as a collective, what we're doing right now is in our own little way, giving these guys as much exposure as you can give them to at least help the next person to know about it. Just like you did, helping y'all know about Den Frimpong, and now he follows him, and now he's going to follow all his fights. That's one extra eye that now knows about him that didn't know about him before. you know. And like I said, in our own little way, you know, sometimes we do shows like this, and somebody that ain't even that don't not even into MMA, all of a sudden they're into MMA, and they'll probably pick a favorite fighter or favorite whatever, you know, from the promotion. What can they then do in turn to at least, because it's hard to build this brand that they're not talking about, but what can they then do to, you know, to help build this brand to help them at least with some of these pay problems that they got?
Quick one before Jordan goes. So everyone, especially the females that I've watched UFC with, they've all gotten into it. To add to your point of, we are doing our part of bringing the eyes. Sorry about that, Jordan. Go for it.
Yeah, I think it's a weird one. Like with McDane saying that UFC is probably closer to tennis in terms of revenue share. I think the UFC is somewhere between 17 and 19% of the revenue goes to fighters. Boxing is between 67 and 74%. So
Can I interject with that one though?
Yeah.
So yeah, you're right, but that is more your Money Mayweathers, your Canelos, your Anthony Joshua's, your Tyson Fury. Like there is some journeyman that just wouldn't get it. As Dana White mentioned in an interview the other day, like you've got your Jim Millers that have never reached that champion level to bring in the pay-per-view buys, but he's made millions in the course of his career because of being the journeyman that he is. So I get what you're saying with that higher percentage, and it is true. I'm not saying it's not true, but I don't believe that is across the board in boxing. That is just your upper level, higher known.
But to be fair, the upper level consists of a lot more people. How many heavyweight champions are there in boxing?
Yeah, because there's a
Probably
stupid
10.
amount of commissions.
Yeah, and I mean, I get what you're saying. Like, the UFC, for being a lower to mid card guy, you'd be better being an MMA fighter. There's a better chance of you making 100 grand a fight and maybe getting a 50 grand bonus here and there. But as far as being the guy, boxing is far more lucrative. And I think that's because boxers still have bargaining power. It's coming back a little bit in the UFC with obviously PFL sort of forming more of a super company that's in position to try and sort of compete with the UFC for some of the big name signings. But yeah, it's just not there yet. And UFC fighters don't have any options to really go and try and make more money than the UFC want to give them. It's basically that get the UFC to want to pay you more money is your only option at the moment. Or go elsewhere and take your chances, which is always a risk. You don't know what companies out UFC are still going to be there this time next year at this rate.
Yeah, I mean, Ngannou took his chances, and you know, look where he's at now. Thank you for that.
Had to go to
That bit
boxing
of
to get that though, didn't he?
Yeah, I mean, the boxing is going out of business. I mean, boxing is putting money in these fighters' pockets. They leave it mismatch.
Fire sale.
Go over there,
And a lot of them are going to bare knuckle as well.
Yeah, you know, they're going over there to
That tells you something,
make a lot
right?
of money. Yeah. Hey, Daniel says, when can we expect Sweet Angel Chi back? Not the same staring at your mushies. Big up yourself, Daniel, man. Big up yourself. Yeah, we're gonna have Chi back on the show. Good friend of the show now, and yeah, when we're ready and when she's free and our schedules align, because these people, they all have things to do, man. It ain't easy bringing everyone together like that. Trust me, it's a lot of work coordinating people together, but we're gonna make it happen. Very
remember,
soon. Once a schedule
even just getting us free together and every week
it's hard.
You don't understand the lashes we get in the background, like I swear to God.
Yeah. Although I don't know if you're allowed to talk like that, being the white man on the show. This is just some words you're not meant to be.
The other white man on the show.
Yeah. That was rough for you, Jordan. But
yeah. To be fair, you have to remember that Ola's trying to sort of put together things across continents and everything here. So sometimes it's requires a bit of luck for time zones and stuff to line up to get everyone together.
Yeah, it's difficult, but we'll try and make it happen. We'll definitely try and make it happen again once she has a
I'm sure all men saying specifically that Daniel Joyce asked when you'll be back.
Oh yeah,
We'll let you know next week. So you better be here.
Don't worry, man. She's in demand. She's in demand. One topic that I do want to talk about: Jamal Hill. Yeah, I'm gonna come to you on this. He's been talking a lot, especially after what went on recently with Dricos. Poaton obviously piping up and calling out, and not so much calling out Dricos, but saying maybe one last ride at at 185, and we saw Dricos telling, mate, I dare you to come down here. Jamal Hill is feeling disrespected and feeling sidelined, brother. What is it valid in what he's saying? Nobody's really, he vacated the title. Like, is it valid in how he's feeling? And should he really be back in conversation? For title with someone like Poaton?
Personally, my answer is in theory no, but Yuri Prohaska vacated, he got a title shot. So you can't discount Jamal's, I guess, intention of saying, listen, I'm here. Just because I vacated from an injury doesn't mean I should be sidelined. Actually, I'm a credible fighter, and I'm the fighter you should be looking up to because I vacated on an injury. With all due respect to John Jones, I didn't just keep the title and say, no, wait for me and my injury. I said, listen, I'm injured right now. Let the division move on. So from that perspective, I have a lot of respect for him for having done that, because it takes a real man, a real fighter to say, listen, I got it. I just got it, but I can't continue right now. So I understand why he feels aggrieved by being sidelined by the UFC, by the fans, to be honest. But unfortunately, he isn't the other superstars in that division, or the other stars in that division, or the other former champions in that division. Everyone else seems to have a slightly brighter light, and I think that's really what's happening to Jamal Hill right now. Is he once he vacated the title, he started to more so put a lot of emphasis into the things he said and his podcast and calling people out and being opinionated, etc. But it doesn't seem to really be taking hold for some reason. We all hear it and we're like, oh, hey, former champ, and then we just kind of move on without really like throwing him into the hat of saying, look, this is the former light heavyweight champion. We need to give him some respect. We need to understand the fact that he vacated and that he needs either another opportunity or some way to work back towards the title, because that's what you do with someone who has vacated. So he's talking a lot, and I think he has a right to talk, but unfortunately, I don't think his talking is really going to help, because everyone else there is who we want to see. At this point, his most, for me, electrifying knockout. And don't get me wrong. If I look at the names on the list that he's actually beaten in his last 5 to 6 fights, he's got a good stake to say, listen, I've beaten Glover. I've beaten Johnny Walker, sure. But he's got a few names there that we can look at and say, look, maybe we should give him something, to give him at least 1 to 2 fights to get back to the title. Not even 2. 1 fight to potentially get back to the title. So I think having him there, saying what he's saying, doing what he's doing, is helping the division be strong and have depth. Because the one thing we always complain about is divisions with no depth. Hence, we have an issue with the women's bantamweight division. Yeah. So for me, it's very important for him to keep his voice and stake his claim to say, yes, you guys might be looking at 1, 2, or 3, but remember, this division's actually this. There's a lot of us in here that have the skill, or a former champion, etc., etc. So for me, I'm enjoying the fact that he's talking. I'm not sure where it's going to go anytime in the near future. He probably needs to keep on and then hope there's another vacation or like some dominant win in the next fight, something. But yeah, that's my opinion. Jamal Hill, respect, but let's see when he can get back into title contention.
Jordan, what about you? I mean, just look at the whole 205 division together. Obviously, this man, if he still feels like he's a champion, like my man said, he vacated on injury. But he must be thinking, I want to prove all of you wrong. Get me in there, and or do you think the way he's going about it is like my man said, is bringing more depth and is keeping the division alive? At least we got something to talk about the division. What's your take on both sides?
Yeah, so I think the smartest thing to be doing right now is to be going to Dana and pestering him as much as possible for Alex Pereira at UFC 300. Alex has made it perfectly clear that he wants to fight at UFC 300, and it's between Jamal Hill and Ankalaev at the moment. That's your top two contenders. But also on that card, just underneath them, Yuri's fighting Rakic, and either one could stake just as good a claim to be next in line after that fight. So you really need to be first in line here, or you could be waiting 2-3 fights by the time you've actually got your shot back. As far as Jamal Hill going to 185 again, every time I've seen him in the past year or two, he's looked out of shape. He's looked sort of bloated and a bit overblown, and like he could make 185 if he really wanted to. So I don't know, maybe that might not be a terrible plan should he not get the next title fight.
That's one hell of a way to look at it. I'm telling you, because is in a real sticky situation right now, and maybe the noise he's making is what's going to get him out of it. It's a sticky one for Jamal Hill. But let me get your overview on all of 205, Jordan, and where Jamal Hill actually fits in the whole story, in your eyes.
One more fight, and then let's see where he goes from there. But who's that one more fight going to be against? It's funny, isn't it? Yeah, I mean, like, you had Jerry vacate, then you had Jamal vacate, and now we're going to it. But then you've got the likes of Jones. Jones hasn't had to vacate, and from what I'm sure I read something a little while ago that they never chose to. You know what I mean? They were asked to. You know what I mean? And then they were like, yeah, right, okay, I'll do it. You know what I mean? It keeps it moving. Is Ankalaev going to go and get that next title fight? Obviously, Jan isn't going to be fighting for one anytime soon. We've got Rakic there. Rakic's got a fight coming up. Who's he going against soon? Is it Prohaska in it at 299? Yeah. Is that who he's going against?
You said Rakic
UFC 300 Yuri versus Rakic.
Oh, sorry, yeah, it's 300 in it. It was the prelim announced for 300. Sorry, yeah.
Which is wild, by the way.
It is pretty fucking wild, to be honest with you. You got Khalil Roundtree in the division. Jamal Hill is obviously sitting there pretty in the number one spot, just below Alexa Pereira. I don't know. He got beat by Paul Craig, so Alexa Pereira can fucking get it done.
Paul Craig took his limbs, bro.
So did Ankalaev.
I know, mate. I know, but come on, that was also a few years ago.
Paul Craig technically has as good a shout at fighting Alex Pereira as anyone. He's beaten number one and number two.
Yeah, I don't think. Well, for the Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, if we're going to the grappling side of things, that's his best chance, which is always his best chance.
He needs to do the UFC's first flying guard pull.
the first light heavyweight flying guard pull.
Make fucking dirty dancing. Just run up, jump, and wrap your legs around.
Full guard on you straight away, man. Like, boy, get down over here. I mean, you're gonna have to take some intensive classes or against guard pull like that from Paul Craig, man. Like, you're gonna have to get Glover to give you them trainings there.
You could call it the Scotch crotch, as it just flies at you and hits you. Yeah, I mean, but obviously, Anthony Smith would throw a penny into any wishing well that they chucked at him either. You know what I mean? So he would definitely go in there against Jamal Hill. I think. Like, there's a few names that they could throw at him. Nikita Krylov. You know what I mean?
I think Khalil Roundtree would be the most fan friendly fight of all time. Is Khalil Roundtree versus Alex Pereira? But that's what I'm hoping for before the end of the year. I know it's not highly likely, but maybe the UFC say, fuck it, let's do Thailand.
Yeah, he's definitely on his way up there. He's definitely on his way up there. before we end the show, we got 5 minutes before we kill off the show. And salute to everybody that stayed with us, all of you that's joining us or watching on playback. Big up to all of you. Please hit the like button, hit the share button, get us out there, and please make sure you're joining us on Friday for our prediction show. We're going to be having our prediction show on Friday. Some people looking to catch up. Some people want to, they want the upset multipliers. So yeah, come and catch us on Friday, man, for our prediction show, man. Right. Before we end the show, I wanted to take this to y'all, right? Because this is more your domain. Talking about EFC, there's a few fights on the horizon. I'm starting to see a couple of people, saying fight announcement to arrive soon. We spoke to Yako Duplessis recently from CIT. He's got a fight coming up. We got Shadrach Blammy. He was on with us the other day, and he mentioned his dream fight. What he's really lobbying for would be to face someone like Diego Bandu. That was my reaction, bro. That was exactly my reaction right there.
It's a yes for that one,
bro. It's a insane. It's just an insane fight. We got Gift and Zulu and people like Tumelo and maybe even Terrence, the Black Panther. Maybe them two can dance as well. There's a lot going on with EFC right now, and there's a lot of shine that's called that Dricos is brought back, and it's going to give a lot of these fighters plenty of motivation. Our brother Adrian Sanchez as well. He said he got one or two things getting lined up. Big up to Adrian Sanchez. What's your take on what you see, at least the first quarter of EFC serving their fans, not just at home, but internationally?
So I'll take it a bit wider than EFC when I talk about local promotions in South Africa. So like you rightfully said, Dricus has put a lot of shine on the MMA industry in South Africa. We currently have at least 2 MMA world champions in Nkosi the Future Ndebele, Dricus, actually 3, Dricus Duplessis, and then obviously Demar Pena of Angolan origin, but in South Africa. So South Africa is becoming a premier MMA destination, headlined and spearheaded by the EFC. Now, I think what that has then created is the environment where the EFC matchmakers are having, I wouldn't say more ease, but the fights that they can put on are getting better and better and better. From EFC 100, honestly, because I started really following EFC like intensely at like EFC 92. But from EFC 100, the fights have been phenomenal. EFC recently last year signed a deal with Sport Locker, which is basically a Brazilian streaming platform for all their fights to then stream into Brazil, which means now these fighters are getting exposure, not just because of Dricus EFC, but also in one of the fight destinations of the world, Brazil. So with everything the EFC has been doing in terms of local promotion, international promotion, fighter promotion, making sure that they're keeping themselves ahead of the game locally, I think there's a lot of big things coming. However, there is a lot of local competition that is starting to crop up because the EFC has been so successful, because there's a big spotlight on South African MMA. So promotions like, for example, Versus, MFC, Ace Championship, there's quite a few that are coming up and starting to really build a proper MMA industry in South Africa. So I'm very excited for the quality of fights that the EFC is going to be able to put on, because what happens is with all this competition, eventually these fighters want to get to the headline, and the headline is EFC. So I think there's an absolutely phenomenal breeding ground in the EFC's backyard, which will allow them to put on phenomenal fights over and above the fights that you've mentioned. For example, like if Blamby and Diego Bandu happens, like like you got me excited just by saying it. Like so I'm very excited about what this year has to hold, not just with the EFC, but with MMA as a whole in South Africa. In the Africa region, actually, if I look at what Francis Ngannou is doing with regards to fighting Anthony Joshua, another African-born person, and having the African division of PFL, I'm very, very excited.
Yeah, man, 100%. Like you said, all this regional promotions are now coming out of the woodwork. We've got one over there in Nigeria, the Akko show. Yeah, man. With Usman going over there and putting that promotion together, and they're gathering MMA fighters from over there as well, and breeding MMA in some of these countries, and we got Ngannou is actually the PFL African ambassador for MMA for the whole continent. So these are really, really good signs for MMA for the future, and we're gonna keep doing our part, talking about it, bringing it to the people, and giving everybody awareness on the topic of MMA. Whatever MMA is dealing with, the landscape of it, we're going to be over here talking about it. And look, I want to thank all of you for joining us this evening, and no doubt I'm going to be reaching out to some of you to come and join us again next week. Big up to everybody. And before we check out, let me get McDane, what you got coming up, and where can the people find you on your social media, brother?
Cheers, man. So you can get me on McDane MMA on Twitter. You can also get me on the Rambling Dad MMA podcast on Instagram. And I, excuse me, I've been battling with this cough for the last 2 weeks. It just tickles out of nowhere and just catches me. You should have seen me in the press conference trying not to cough. I had a packet of sweets in my pocket too, just in case. But I'm sitting there in the middle of it, of other people asking questions, going, "Don't do it, don't do it." Yeah, I mean the camera's flying on you. Anyway, I have Daniel Strauss. Some of you might know him, Brazilian Roger Gracie, Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu black belt. He's also play-by-play for Cage Warriors now, I believe, too. I mean, the man has some of the most craziest workout sessions you'll ever see in your life, and you might also know him for the jorts that he likes to wear whilst he's training. That's a big one, but so he's coming in on Sunday. I have another member of the community, Mom's Basement, Tyler MMA, coming on next weekend. I am trying to reschedule Reese McEwen because due to the weather conditions a couple of weeks ago, and him flying from Glasgow to Wales and ended up in Paris. Obviously he could, I see Yao there's like, that's a funny flight path to be taken. So it was crazy. A lot of people ended up in Paris whilst we were trying to fly to destinations in the UK from within the UK. It was, the winds were that bad. A few things lined up. It's all rocking and rolling. And as I said to you guys in the chat, I have also been granted an invitation back to Octagon again in Birmingham, which is April 20th.
April.
Yeah.
I was gonna say it's 2 days from my anniversary. I'll say that to you.
Nah, man. April 20th in Birmingham. So get your tickets, folks. You don't want to miss this one. It's going to be a banger. You've got Frimpong's probably going to be on that card. You've also got Big Shem back in the Octagon.
Big up Shamrock. Big up Shamrock, man. Man, you're a busy man. Busy man. People go and support his work. Make sure you follow his page and go and subscribe to his channel as well, the Rambling Dad podcast. Jordan, plug your channel, plug your pages, and tell the people what you're working on and what you got coming up.
I think so far this week we're just waiting on Leroy editing a couple of things. We've got an interview with Cage Warriors commentator Brad Wharton. Was meant if I'm on for like 15-20 minutes, end up chatting away to him for about an hour. So that should be up in the channel sometime within the next 7 days. Apart from that, guess I'll see everybody on Friday for the prediction show.
Yes, sir.
Recently started the new season, so not too early to maybe jump in and play along at home if anybody wants to come see how we're betting this weekend.
Yeah, man, 100%. Definitely going to be putting a couple of quid on some fights this weekend. So keep an eye on it. Go and support what Cage Scribe Jordan is doing. Go follow his page and support him as well. Yao, the Head Kick Podcast. Please kick him in the head with a plug. Let them know what you're doing, what you got coming up, my bro.
At Head Kick Pod, we have lots coming. Like I mentioned, we've got quite a few promotions that have started up recently in South Africa that we're also going to be covering. We're also moving into bare knuckle simply because it's really exciting. And a lot of MMA fighters go across the bare knuckle, as they say, to feel how real it is. So we're basically going to be doing BKFC. We're going to be covering TBK, which is Titan bare knuckle. We're going to be covering Ace Championship, which is looking at Muay Thai, Jiu-Jitsu, and MMA. And obviously, we're going to be doing EFC as well as MFC, which are both, and Versus, of course, because Versus is an amateur promotion that's now going pro. So that's also very exciting because 2 pro promotions. I mean, we're going to be sports for choice this coming year. So anything MMA in the Africa region, we're also going to be covering AKO show. Very excited about what they're doing in Nigeria. There's a new one that started out in the Gambia. So anything MMA on the African continent, we are there for it. At Head Kick Pod, all platforms. Listen, like, subscribe, comment. Very excited about this coming year at Head Kick Pod, and looking forward to doing more fight work with you at the Fight Week show. Like I absolutely love being on the show, guys. Thank you so much, Jordan, McDane. Absolutely love it. And on Twitter, yes, we engage a lot during the Fight Week, McDane, on Twitter. I absolutely love your Twitter account.
Cheers, bro.
Yeah, man. 100% people.
And,
People
and that was smoother than anybody else has ever done in their life. The promotion of that was absolutely incredible. You know what I mean? Yeah, and I think you make the rest of us sound like very lazy men there, given all the work that you've got way ahead of you. Like,
nah, I mean these brothers, they put in the work. I'm a big fan of your work over there, and I just love what you guys do. I love the energy that you guys put on when you put out content, and yeah, fantastic guys to work with, and that goes for all of you as well, not just you, Yao. Even my white brothers over here, I mean, salute to all of you, but yeah, man, it's all love every single time. People, make sure you're subscribing to the Fight Week show. Make sure you
told you to call me Marshmallow, bro.
make sure you're supporting all these guys, and help on to the next show, people. Hasta la vista. We're out. You're crazy.
Kick him in the head.